People used to point at me and say, "That guy has everything." And they meant the company, the money, the car, the apartment in the sky. But nobody ever looked at me and said, "That guy looks happy." I was the cliché of a successful CEO who stayed late at the office, went home to a quiet place, opened his laptop again, and called that loneliness being driven. Then, one random afternoon, a 6-year-old girl walked into a little neighborhood bakery with $5 in a beat-up bag, looked straight at me and asked, "Mister, are you sad?" And I swear that tiny question rattled me more than any angry board meeting or bad press ever has. It was my 39th birthday, which is a weird age to begin with, and my assistant had booked a fancy restaurant, a long table of investors and executives who would have toasted my numbers, but not noticed if I disappeared from their lives. The thought of sitting there pretending to celebrate made me feel heavier by the minute, so I canceled, got in my car, and just drove. I ended up in the older part of town where the sidewalks are cracked. The stores have names instead of logos, and you can actually smell dinner through open windows. That is where I saw Chen's Bakery on the corner, paint peeling on the sign, warm light spilling out, and something about it made me park and go inside. The air hit me first. Butter coffee sugar, that warm smell that feels like a memory, even if you never had it growing up. Wooden display cases with glass fronts showed rows of cakes and pastries, and behind the counter was Mrs. Chen wiping down the glass with the calm rhythm of someone who has been doing this for decades. At the front case was a little girl in a pink dress, a size too big, blonde hair in slightly crooked pigtails holding a small canvas bag tight to her chest. She moved slowly, eyes scanning each cake, not touching, just measuring things with that serious look kids get when money is involved. And I recognized it because I grew up counting coins with my mom at the grocery store and hoping we didn't go over. Mrs. Chen came around the counter and said, "Hi, sweetheart. What are you looking for today?" And the girl took a breath like she was about to do something brave. "I need to buy a birthday cake for my mom," she said. "She is turning 30 tomorrow. She loves chocolate and flowers, so maybe a chocolate cake with flowers." Then she opened her little bag and pulled out a worn $5 bill and a few coins, smoothed them on the glass, and told Mrs. Chen she had saved her allowance for months, skipped ice cream at school, and done extra chores for this. Mrs. Chen's eyes went from the money to the price tags, and I saw the math land on her face. The cheapest cake in that case was $25, and the beautiful 3-layer chocolate cake with buttercream flowers the girl kept staring at was way out of reach. She gently pointed to a much smaller, simpler cake and said, "We could decorate this one a little, make it special." And the girl nodded politely, but her eyes went right back to the big one. You could see the letdown the way she tried to swallow it, because kids who grow up on tight budgets learn early that want and can are two very different things. I was a few steps behind them, pretending to browse, when the bell over the door chimed again as I came in fully, and the girl finally turned and saw me. She looked me over. Dark coat, tired face, the whole busy man with money image. And then, completely serious, she asked, "Mister, are you sad, Mrs.?" Chen started apologizing right away. "I am so sorry," she just says things, but I lifted a hand, because as blunt as it was, she was not wrong. I crouched so I was eye level with her and said, "You know what? I am a little sad. How did you know?" And she shrugged like it was obvious and said, "Your eyes look lonely like my mom's when she is worried about money or when she misses my dad." No one at the office had ever called me lonely. They said I was intense or focused. They wrote articles calling me ruthless, but a 6-year-old just nailed the truth in one sentence. I introduced myself as Daniel. She said she was Lily, and when I asked why she was there, she brightened and lifted the 5 again, saying she was buying a birthday cake for her mom, Sarah, because her mom worked so hard and deserved something beautiful. Then she added in a quieter voice, "But I only have $5, and I do not think it is enough." I looked at that little pile of money at the cake with the flowers at Mrs. Chen, and I could feel that moment where you decide who you are going to be. So I reached into my pocket, pulled out my wallet, and said, "You know something funny? Lily, today is my birthday too. I just turned 39, and I was on my way to eat some boring cake by myself." She frowned, like that sounded wrong. "How about this?" I said. "We share this cake. You give me your $5, I will pay the rest. You take it home for your mom, and I will count it as my birthday cake too. We can be birthday cake partners." She stared at me like she was trying to see if this was real and said, "But you are paying almost all of it. That is not fair." I told her that $5 from her meant more than anything I could put in because she had earned it one little sacrifice at a time, while I could swipe my card and barely notice, and that helping her make her mom smile would make my birthday better than any fancy dinner. I held out my hand and waited. After a long second, she put her small hand in mine, shook it like a real deal, and pressed the $5 into my palm like it was treasure. I walked to the counter, gave Mrs. Chen my card, and said, "We will take the chocolate cake with the flowers, and please add a box of chocolate chip cookies. Those are from Lily." While Mrs. Chen boxed everything, she told us to sit at a little table by the window. Lily kicked her feet and asked, "So why are you alone on your birthday?" And for some reason, I did not give her the usual polished line. I told her I ran a company, that my parents were gone, that I had no siblings, that I had thrown myself so deep into work that I had let most of my friendships fade without fighting for them, and that I had gotten used to coming home to nobody. She listened with that serious child face and said, "That sounds really sad. Everyone should have someone on their birthday." And as simple as that sentence was, it landed like a punch. Then she told me about her mom working at a restaurant during the day and cleaning offices at night, about her dad dying when she was 3, about how her mom was always tired, but still read to her and helped with homework, and suddenly this cake was about a lot more than sugar. Then she looked at me and said, "Mr. Daniel, if you are alone, do you want to come to my mom's birthday party tomorrow?" She said it like she was inviting me to the most natural thing in the world. Cake and ice cream in a small apartment. No decorations from a store, just them. Part of me wanted to say yes immediately, because the picture of that party felt warmer than any restaurant reservation on my calendar. But I also knew her mom might not want a stranger showing up at her door. So I told Lily I would only come if Sarah said it was okay. I pulled out a business card, wrote my cell number on the back, and asked her to give it to her mom and have her call or text if she was comfortable with it, telling her that if I never heard from them, the cake was still completely theirs. She nodded, like this was the most official thing she had ever done, tucked the card into her bag, and I walked her home carrying the boxes, because there was no way I was letting a 6-year-old navigate 4 blocks alone with an expensive cake in her arms. Their building was old, but cared for the kind of place where neighbors still say hi in the hallway. When Sarah opened the door, she had that look I recognized from Lily's description. Tired, watchful, the kind of person who has had to stay alert, because life keeps throwing curveballs. She checked her daughter, checked me, checked the cake, and I saw all her alarms go off at once. Lily launched into the story, talking about birthday cake partners and lonely eyes, and I filled in the parts she skipped, explaining as calmly as I could that I had just wanted to help Lily get the cake she had her heart set on. Sarah said it was too much, that she could not accept something that expensive from a stranger, and honestly, I respected that. Then Lily handed her my card. Sarah read my name and the company under it, and I watched her realize exactly who was standing in her doorway. "You are that Daniel," she said, the CEO, and there was a sharp little edge in her voice I had heard in the news more than once. I nodded and said, "Today I am just Daniel, the guy your daughter decided should not eat cake alone, and I promised I was not there to make a post or a headline or anything like that." She did not invite me in right away. She thanked me for walking Lily home, said she appreciated what I had done, and said she needed to think about the rest. That night, back in my huge, quiet apartment, my phone lit up with a message from an unknown number, and it was Sarah. She wrote that she had listened to Lily talk about me until she fell asleep, that she had been suspicious because she had to be, but that she believed what I had done came from a genuine place, and if I still wanted to come to the parties, they would be happy to have me. The next evening, I showed up with flowers for her, a small wrapped present for Lily, and ice cream to go with the cake. Their apartment was tiny. The furniture mismatched the decorations, hand-drawn, and it felt more like a home than my carefully designed place ever had. We ate cheap pizza, sang Happy Birthday off-key, cut into that beautiful chocolate cake. And for a couple of hours, there were no spreadsheets, no investors, no image to manage, just three people laughing at silly jokes and arguing over who got the corner piece. When I went home that night, the silence in my apartment sounded louder than ever, and instead of feeling safe, it felt wrong. So I started going back. Once a week for dinner at first, then to help Lily with school projects, then just because it felt good to sit at that little table and talk about normal things. I used my money differently. I set up a scholarship fund and made sure Sarah could go back to school and finish her nursing degree. I fixed her car when it broke down. I stopped letting the office own every hour of my day. And slowly, almost without me noticing, the way I thought about success started to change. I was still a CEO, but I was also the guy who knew what story Lily liked before bed, and how Sarah took her coffee, and that felt more real than any title. Here is the twist I never saw coming when I pulled out my wallet in that bakery. I walked in thinking I was saving a little girl's birthday with my credit card. But the truth is, Lily and Sarah were saving me from a life that looked impressive on paper and felt empty in practice. A year after that first cake, after a lot of dinners and hard conversations about trust and power and what people might say, I asked Sarah to have dinner with me, just us. I told her I had fallen in love with her and with the life we were building together, and I admitted I was scared of our story, sounding like some cliché where the rich guy rescues the single mom. She looked right at me and said, "Then do not rescue me, be my partner, or do not do it at all," and I knew she meant every word. We took our time, kept talking, kept checking each other, and eventually she told me she loved me too, not as some article about a CEO, but as the man who washed dishes in her sink and fell asleep on the couch halfway through movies. We got married in a small ceremony where Lily was the flower girl and Mrs. Chen made the cake, and a few months later I adopted Lily officially, even though she had already started calling me Dad when she forgot to be careful. Years later, when Lily stood on stage at her college graduation and talked about the people who shaped her life, she told the story of walking into a bakery with $5 and asking a stranger if he was sad. She said, "I always tell her she saved my life that day," and then she said, "The truth is we saved each other," and I sat there between Sarah and Mrs. Chen, wiping my eyes and thinking, yeah, that happened, and I almost missed it. Chen's bakery is still on that corner now, run by Mrs. Chen's daughter, and sometimes they tell our story to customers, like it is just a sweet neighborhood legend about a girl, a lonely CEO, and a birthday cake. When I stop by and hear people react, some smile, some roll their eyes at the idea of a rich guy doing something kind, with no angle. And honestly, I understand both reactions. So let me ask you this, because I really do want to know what you think. If you had been in that bakery and seen Lily with her $5, Would you have stepped in or told yourself it was not your business? If you were Sarah, would you have opened the door to a stranger with an expensive cake or slammed it no matter what your kid said? Do you see what I did as simple kindness, or do you think there is more to unpack about power trust and luck colliding on the right day? Tell me in the comments how you see it, what you think real success looks like. And if you have ever had one small moment, one invitation, one question, one shared slice of cake, change the direction of your life, because I would honestly love to hear your side of this.